A growing number of American men are chasing a dream abroad. Palm trees, soft accents, and a wife material untouched by modern dating chaos. They call themselves passport bros. Some find romance, but others vanish without a trace. Today, we're diving into 3 real stories of American men whose romantic dreams abroad spiraled into blackmail, disappearance, and death. And it all starts with one man, a dating app, and a drink in Colombia that nearly killed him. In May 2025, an American man landed in Medellin, Colombia. Let's call him James, since his name was never released due to privacy purposes. He was in his mid-30s, tired of the dating grind back home. You know the deal. Ghosted texts, endless swiping, no connection. Like many others, he'd heard the stories. Colombian women are traditional, family-oriented, feminine, warm, romantic. And for men burned by dating in the U.S., that sounded like a dream worth chasing. He stayed in El Poblado, one of Medellin's most upscale, tourist-friendly neighborhoods. It's all shiny rooftops, craft cocktails, and warm night air. The kind of place that feels safe, like nothing could go wrong. So, James opened his dating app. Maybe it was Tinder, maybe Bumble. They didn't mention that in the reports, but what matters is this. He matched with someone, a local woman. Let's call her Sophia. Beautiful, charming, interested. They chatted, flirted. Sophia invited him to meet up for drinks. And just like that, the fantasy began to take shape. They met at a trendy bar that Thursday night. Music thumped in the background. Locals and foreigners mingled under soft neon lights. They ordered cocktails, laughed, and talked about music. The lady leaned in close. Somewhere between his second and third drink, the room began to tilt. James remembered thinking, "That's weird. I've only had 2. That was the last clear thought he had. He woke up in a hospital. His head was pounding. His arms were strapped to IVs, and a nurse asking him questions in Spanish he couldn't understand. He'd been unconscious for nearly 18 hours. Doctors later said he'd been drugged, likely with scopolamine, a substance so infamous in Colombia it's got a street name, Burundanga. It's odorless, tasteless, and terrifying. Scopolamine doesn't just knock you out. It wipes your memory, renders you compliant, and makes you follow orders like a puppet. Under its influence, people have handed over ATM pins, opened bank apps, and even helped their attackers rob them, all with a blank, mechanical smile. That's what likely happened to this man. By the time he came back to his senses, his phone, wallet, and all valuables were gone. His bank accounts had been drained too. Reports say about $5,000 vanished through a series of ATM withdrawals and online transfers. The woman he met? Gone. There was no trace of her in the bar. Her dating profile? Deleted. The security footage showed her leaving with another person, a man, just minutes after their table cleared. Local authorities said the setup was all too familiar. In fact, they'd already counted at least 10 similar cases in Medellin that year alone, all involving foreign men who were lured through dating apps. They were drugged, robbed, and abandoned. Some victims were found in alleyways. Others woke up in cheap hostels, stripped of everything but their passports. And a few never woke up at all. This man, at least, survived. But the message was clear. He was never the target of affection, only opportunity. Authorities believe the woman was working with a criminal ring that uses romance apps to bait foreign men. They meet in public to build trust, and once the victim's drugged, they drain his life in the span of a few hours. The man eventually returned to the U.S., reportedly shaken and unwilling to speak publicly, and who could blame him? He didn't just lose money, he lost trust. He lost the dream. The fantasy of finding love in a tropical paradise became a nightmare that could have ended in a morgue instead of a hospital. But what's most disturbing? He's far from alone. Now, if you're into stories about bad things that happen, those moments where life takes a dark, twisted turn, then you're in the right place. That's what we do here. And we drop a new video every week. So if that's your vibe, please offer the like button and a tropical cocktail. But don't tell it there's a drop of something sinister mixed in. Also, hit subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our next dive into the stuff most people don't talk about, but probably should. Okay, let's get into another sick story we have on the menu today. In another part of the world, a country famous for its glittering temples, blue beaches, and the promise of exotic romance, another man was about to learn that not every swipe right leads to love. This time, the event took place in Thailand, specifically Pattaya, a coastal city where dreams of tropical escape blend with neon-lit nights and a reputation for nightlife that never sleeps. But in January 2025, what started as a dream vacation for 45-year-old Stephen Walter turned into one of the most horrifying stories to hit local headlines in years. Now, to clarify, Stephen wasn't American. He was German, a divorced businessman from Munich who flew to Pattaya on vacation, perhaps to find some company and fall in love. The story resonates so deeply because it could have been anyone, a man from any Western country, drawn in by the same promises. Stephen had connected with a woman on a popular dating app called Thai Friendly. Her name, according to police, was Nak, a 28-year-old with a friendly smile, soft voice, and a profile that promised good company and quiet nights. They messaged. It went well. She didn't ask for anything. No red flags, no pressure. So when she suggested they meet in person at a beachfront bar in Pattaya, Stephen didn't hesitate. The date, by all reports, went smoothly. They had drinks and talked for hours. Nak was attentive and affectionate. She said she didn't want the night to end. She invited Stephen back to a private villa in East Pattaya, saying it would be more peaceful there. It would be just the two of them, away from the noise. And that's when the trap closed. The moment Stephen stepped into that villa, everything went wild. Two men, both Thai nationals, were already waiting. Before Stephen could react, he was ambushed, beaten, tied up, and dragged into a back room. For the next several days, they held him hostage. His abductors took his phone, searched his documents, and quickly realized Stephen had money, or at least the kind of life that suggested he did. They contacted his family back in Germany, demanding 52,000 euros, about $60,000, for his release. His family, stunned and terrified, scrambled to get answers, but time wasn't on their side. Inside the villa, Stephen was tortured, beaten repeatedly with blunt objects, and burned with cigarettes. His captors were trying to make an example to force urgency and pressure the family into paying fast. But something went wrong. The payment didn't come, or maybe they got nervous. Perhaps they never planned to let him go at all, because on January 15th, 5 days after his abduction, Stephen was found dead. The cause? Strangulation. His body was dumped in a wooded area near Jomtien Beach, just far enough out of sight to delay discovery, but not enough to hide the crime. When Thai authorities found the body, it was badly bruised with signs of prolonged physical abuse. No wallet, no phone, but clues led him back to the villa. There, police found bloodstains, bindings, and Stephen's belongings hidden under a bed. They arrested Nak within 24 hours. One of the men, a 35-year-old named Samsak P, was caught trying to leave the city. The third suspect, a 30-year-old Thai male, fled the area, but the damage was already done. The story shocked even locals. Pattaya has a long history of scams targeting foreign men, but this wasn't a petty theft or a stolen phone. This was a premeditated abduction and murder executed with precision. And for what? $60,000? A few days of leverage over a terrified family? It sent a wave of fear through the expat community and led to conversations online, especially on platforms like X. Many asked, how many more men are falling for these traps and simply vanishing? How many never make headlines? Stephen Walter wasn't reckless. He didn't bring trouble to his doorstep. He met a woman on a dating app, just like millions of people do every day. He followed where the night led, and it led him to his death. It's easy to look at these stories and think, that would never happen to me. But that's the danger of confidence in unfamiliar places when charm becomes camouflage and paradise turns predatory. Because the truth is, Stephen never had a chance. And as disturbing as this case was, another was already brewing. This time just south of the U.S. border in Mexico, where a third American man would be pulled into a web of love, deception, and eventually something even darker. This story begins in Tijuana, a city that, for many Americans, sits right on the edge of temptation and escape. Just a quick drive from California, it's where retirees, adventurers, and romantics go to live a little or start over. But for one 62-year-old American man, it would be the end of everything. The man's name was never released publicly. Not out of mystery, but out of mercy. Authorities withheld his identity pending family notification. According to reports, he's called John Doe. He was a retired school teacher from California. John recently divorced his wife and was lonely. He had kids and a pension. And, like many men in his shoes, he turned to dating apps, hoping to find a connection in a place where things moved faster and expectations felt simpler. That's where he met Aurora Phelps. She was 43, charming, kind. Her OkCupid profile described her as romantic, passionate, and looking for something real. They chatted for weeks before he finally crossed into Tijuana to meet her. Their first in-person date was at a modest bar in Zona Centro, a part of the city known for its nightlife and increasingly for its scams. But Aurora didn't come off like a scammer. She was sweet. She was attentive. She didn't ask for money or send sob stories. She was just present. That night, they laughed over tequila. She leaned in close when she talked. He thought he'd hit the jackpot. Someone who saw him, wanted him, maybe even needed him. Then the lights went dim, literally. Security footage later showed Aurora helping him out of the bar around midnight. He was slouched in a wheelchair, barely conscious, his arms limp, his head rolled forward. He had no medical condition that would explain it. But he wasn't resisting either, like the dozens of other men in similar cases who'd been drugged with sedatives, the kind that rob you of your will while keeping you upright. What happened next was nothing short of chilling. Aurora somehow managed to transport him across the U.S.-Mexico border in that wheelchair, likely using forged documents and playing the part of a concerned wife or caretaker. They weren't stopped once. From Tijuana, she boarded a bus with him, unconscious the entire time, and made the long trip to Mexico City. There, she checked him into a small, low-budget hotel on the outskirts of town, and within hours, he was dead. The official cause? Overdose from sedatives. The same kind Aurora was suspected of using in previous robberies. But this time, things didn't go as planned. Maybe she gave him too much, or he fought back. Or maybe, as some investigators quietly believe, she never intended to let him wake up, because Aurora wasn't a first-timer. She might have done that to cover up the crime. By the time authorities caught up with her, she'd already drained over $10,000 from his bank accounts and used his credit cards. She also stole his car and sold off all his personal belongings. And her crimes didn't end there. The FBI would later reveal that Aurora had at least 3 other victims in the past 2 years. They were older men whom she'd targeted through dating apps. She drugged, robbed, and discarded them, but none had died until now. She was arrested weeks later in Mexico and now faces 21 charges, including kidnapping resulting in death, wire fraud, and identity theft. If convicted, she's looking at life in prison, but none of that brings John Doe back. And what's even more haunting is how invisible this story almost was. It barely made U.S. headlines at first. No viral clips or national outrage, just another retired man who should have known better. But would most people have seen that coming? He was careful. They chatted for weeks. He met her in a public place. He wasn't reckless, just hopeful. He didn't die because he was foolish. He died because someone weaponized love and knew how to exploit trust at just the right moment. And he's not alone. The deeper you look into these cases, from Colombia to Thailand to Mexico, the more you realize this isn't about isolated tragedies. It's about a pattern. A growing global ecosystem of predators using data apps, not for romance, but for ransom, robbery, and in the worst cases, murder. These stories aren't meant to scare you away from love, but to remind you that love, sought in the wrong places, can become a weapon in the wrong hands. And if that doesn't make you think twice the next time someone says, "Let's meet for drinks," in a foreign city, I don't know what will. Every one of these men was targeted not just for their wallets, but for their hope. These predators, Sophia, Knock, Aurora, they're part of a global pattern, using data apps to hunt men who believe in love. From Colombia to Thailand to Mexico, it's not random, it's a system. And the scariest part, no one knows how many victims are out there, unreported, forgotten. This is why we tell these stories, because bad things happen, and knowing about them might just save you. So let's talk in the comments. Have you ever had a close call chasing a dream abroad? Drop your thoughts below, and let's get this conversation going. If these stories hit you hard, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories like this.